If the words policies and procedures make you want to close your laptop, go and make a cup of tea, and pretend you're suddenly a keen bird watcher, then you are not alone. Most entrepreneurs, community interest company founders, and social enterprise leaders do not start their organization because they love policies and procedures. You start because you want to help people, you want to generate an income, you want to solve a problem, you want to deliver services, and you want to make a difference. But the truth is, if you want to work with children, young people, vulnerable adults, funders, councils, schools, NHS bodies, community partners, or public sector commissioners, you're going to need a proper suite of policies and procedures. Not because someone wants to make your life difficult, although it may feel that way, but because policies show that your organisation is safe, it's credible, it's organised, and it's ready to deliver. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to start creating policies and procedures without getting totally overwhelmed. I'll cover what policies you might need, where to find good templates, why you shouldn't just copy and paste them, and also how to use AI tools, for example, ChatGPT, Claude, NotebookLM, to help you adapt them, and how to avoid having a whole suite of policies and procedures that look amazing and look very impressive, but nobody actually follows them. So this first part is why policies and procedures matter. Let's start with the basics. A policy says what your organisation believes, expects, or commits to. A procedure is how you actually do it. So they are different. For example, a safeguarding policy might say that we are committed to protecting children, young people, and vulnerable adults from harm. But the procedure will explain who do staff report a concern to, what form do they complete, who contacts social care, what happens if it's about a member of staff or a volunteer, where are the records stored, and how quickly action must be taken. And that all matters, because a beautiful policy that sits in a folder and never gets used is not a safeguarding system. It's just a digital wallpaper that takes up storage space. Now, funders, commissioners, and partners are increasingly looking for organisations that can demonstrate proper governance, risk assessment, risk management, and delivery readiness. So for a small organisation or a community organisation, good policies help you to protect the people you work with, protect your staff and your volunteers. They meet funder and commissioner expectations. They build confidence with partners that you may be delivering with or subcontracting to. They reduce risk. It's an easy way to train new team members. And it's also a good way to make sure you don't make decisions based on panic or guesswork, or whoever happens to be available on WhatsApp at 10:30 on a Friday night, which isn't the best governance model. So let's think about what policies you might need, and that depends on what your organisation does. A small organisation selling handmade products online will not need the same type or the amount of policies that a community interest company would have that's delivering youth work or mentoring or community health projects. But for many small organisations, especially those working with children and with vulnerable people, you may need some of the following: safeguarding children policy, safeguarding adults policy, health and safety policy, risk assessment procedure, volunteer policy, staff code of conduct, lone working policy, equality, diversity and inclusion policy, data protection and GDPR policy, complaints policy, whistleblowing policy, recruitment policy, safer recruitment policy, social media policy, confidentiality policy, financial controls policy, environment or sustainability policy. And before anyone panics, you do not necessarily need to write all those in one weekend. Please do not cancel your life to write 22 policies by Sunday. Start with the highest risk area first. If you work with children, young people, or vulnerable adults, risk safeguarding is a priority. If you have staff or volunteers, you need to have clear expectations, recruitment procedures, and health and safety basics. If you collect people's data, then you need to have your data protection policy. If you handle money, you'll need financial controls. So the key question to ask yourself is, what could go wrong in our organisation? And what do you need in place to manage it and prevent it properly? And this is where policies become useful. It's not paperwork for the sake of paperwork, but like I say, digital. So it's digital work for the sake of digital. It's not paperwork for the sake of doing paperwork. It's about protection, it's about clarity, and it's professionalism. Now let's talk about templates. Where can you find good policy templates? Templates can be brilliant. They can save time. They can give you structure. They can help you to avoid starting with a blank page, which is which is where many founders lose the will to live. But at this, and this is a big but, templates must be adapted. But, and this is a big but, templates must be adapted for your organisation. A safeguarding policy for a nursery, a youth group, a sports club, or an online mentoring program will have similarities, but they should not be identical. You need to make sure the policy reflects what you actually do, who you work with, your local safeguarding arrangements, your named designated safeguarding leads, and your absolute real procedures. Some useful examples on how to find templates. So I work with children and young people in Doncaster. Then the Doncaster Children's Safeguarding Partnership is a very important place to check. Now that is attached to the local authority, so it may be similar in the area that you are in. So check your website of the local authority area where you deliver. So the Doncaster Safeguarding Children Partnership has templates, they have policies and procedures, and they're designed to support partnership working and should be used alongside your own organisational policies and procedures. But they do have templates on there. There's an online procedure manual on their website, which includes core procedures, safeguarding practice guidance, partnership agreements, and appendices around safeguarding. If you are writing a safeguarding policy, you don't just need a random template from the internet. You want your policy to reference your correct local safeguarding procedures and the contact routes that you need to take in case there is a concern. So like I say, look at your local authority, the area that you work in, and see what they have got in your local area. In Doncaster, also work with the public health team, Well Doncaster, who can support with policies and procedures. And they may have useful templates such as GDPR, health and safety, children's safeguarding, safeguarding adults, accident and incident forms, and equality policy templates. So there will be organisations there that can help you. They'll be more detailed if they are local, because then they'll have all the correct contacts for you to add to your policies and procedures. So again, don't just download templates and file them away. You need to adapt them to suit your organisation and your delivery, who you work with. More regional organisation is NCVO, and they are another strong source, especially for voluntary and community organisations. On the NCVO website, there are examples of what you might need, and they do provide sample templates. Remember, your policies need to fit your constitution or your articles, your charitable objects if you're a charity. If you're a community interest company, it needs to fit your purpose and your staffing model and delivery activities. So it must be personalised for your organisation. If you're a charity, then the Charity Commission does have guidance on their website. And the Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO for data protection, has advice on their website too. It's important because data protection is one of those areas where people sometimes create a policy full of impressive words, but no actual system behind it. Yeah, your GDPR procedure should explain things like what personal data you collect, why you collect it, where you store it, who can access it, how long you keep it for, how people can request their data, what you do if there's a data breach, and anything else that's relevant to your organization, data protection. So a little bit of a warning about templates, and I need to be clear on this, is that don't just copy and paste a policy template and put your logo on it. And I see that quite a lot. I understand why. A template is a starting point. It's not a finished policy. So you need to check, does it match what we actually do? Does it use the correct local safeguarding contacts, and are they up to date? Does it name the correct safeguarding lead? Because you should always have your designated safeguarding lead and your deputy designated safeguarding lead on there. Does it explain what staff and volunteers must do? Does it include reporting timescales? Does it match staff structure? Does it reflect delivery venues? Does it include children, adults, both? Does it need board approval? When will it be reviewed? Who is responsible for making sure it's followed? Because if something goes wrong, then no one is going to feel comforted by the fact that you downloaded it in 2022. That's not enough. Your policy should be real. It should be current. It should be usable. Let's talk about AI. I use tools such as ChatGPT. I use Claude, NotebookLM, and these can be incredibly helpful when you're creating policies and procedures. But they shouldn't be treated as a legal advisor or a safeguarding consultant or a regulator. AI can help you to organize, simplify, compare, adapt, and draft, but you still need human judgment. And for high-risk areas like safeguarding, health and safety, employment law, data protection, you should check these against official guidelines and, if needed, get specialist advice. So how can you use AI properly? Let's say you've downloaded a safeguarding policy template from a reputable source. You can upload it onto ChatGPT or Claude and ask it to help you to adapt it to your organization. So presumably at this point you have trained AI and you've told the particular AI that you use, you've told it all about your organization. So you could use a prompt like this: act as an experienced UK policy advisor for a small organization. If you're CIC, then put that. If you're a charity, put that. If you're a limited company, put that. So here's an example. Act as an experienced UK policy advisor for a small community interest company delivering youth and community activities. Review this safeguarding policy template and identify which sections need adapting for our organisation. We deliver weekly youth sessions for young people aged 11 to 18 in community venues in Doncaster and Sheffield. We have a designated safeguarding lead. We have a deputy designated safeguarding lead. We have sessional youth workers and volunteers. Please do not invent legal requirements. Tell me what information you need from me. Tell me what information you need from me before producing a customized version. And that last sentence is important. Tell me what information you need from me, because AI should not be guessing. Should not be guessing your safeguarding lead, should not be guessing your reporting procedures, your local contacts, your local contacts, or your staff structure. You could also ask, create a checklist of decisions we need to make before approving this policy. Or another thing you could ask is turn this policy into a one-page staff procedure that explains what to do if a safeguarding concern is raised during a session. And that is where AI becomes really useful. It can help turn long documents into practical operating procedures, because staff and volunteers do not usually need a 30-page document in the middle of a crisis. They need to know, what do I do? Who do I tell? How quickly? Where do I record it? And what must I not do? Claude can be useful for longer documents because it's generally good at handling larger files and comparing different sources. You could upload a template, a local safeguarding guidance, your organisational details, and then ask Claude to compare these documents and create a gap analysis. What is missing from our current safeguarding policy compared to the template and the guidance? Or you could ask, rewrite this policy in plain English while keeping the meaning professional, or rewrite this policy in plain English while keeping the meaning professional and suitable for a small community interest company. And this can save hours, but again, you must check the output. AI can sound confident but still be wrong. It can also create phrases that sound very official but are not actually based on the guidance that you've uploaded. So use it like a clever assistant, not like a regulator. Make sure you check through and read through everything. NotebookLM can be useful if you want to build a little knowledge base from your own documents. So, for example, you could upload your safeguarding policy, your volunteer policy, risk assessment template, local safeguarding procedures, a staff code of conduct, a session handbook. And then you can ask the question like, what does our organisation say? What does our organisation say volunteers should do if they are worried about a young person? Or you could just ask it to summarise our safeguarding policy process in plain English, or create a briefing paper for new volunteers based on what I have uploaded. Create a briefing note for volunteers based only on the documents uploaded. And that phrase matters, based only on the documents uploaded. NotebookLM is particularly useful because it can work from your own source material rather than wandering off to the internet and coming back with something that's not remotely relevant for your organisation, which does sometimes happen with AI. So NotebookLM can help you to train staff, prepare induction notes, create frequently asked questions, and summarise complex procedures. But it does depend on the quality of the documents that you give it. If your policies are out of date, or they're vague, or they're badly copied, then NotebookLM will not magically fix your governance. It will just make your confusion more confusing or more searchable. So here's a simple step-by-step process. If you are starting from scratch, here's the process I would follow. Step 1, list your activities. Write down exactly what your organisation does. For example, we run youth sessions, we collect registration forms, we use volunteers, we store emergency contacts, we take photographs for social media, we deliver sessions in community venues, we may work with children who have additional needs, we may receive disclosures or safeguarding concerns. And once you have that list, step 2 is to identify your risks. So ask yourself who could be harmed, what could go wrong, what legal or commissioner or funder requirements might apply, what would a council or a school or a commissioner expect us to have in place. Step 3 is then create a policy list. So don't try to create every policy in the world. Create the ones you genuinely need first. So your priorities may be safeguarding children. If you work with vulnerable adults, safeguarding adults, health and safety, risk assessment, data protection, equality and inclusion, complaints procedure, volunteer policies, code of conduct, safer recruitment. And then the fourth step would be to find reputable, good templates. Start with local safeguarding partnerships, NCVO if it's relevant, ICO, Charity Commission if it's relevant, local infrastructure organisations, council resources and trusted sector bodies. You might find your Chamber of Commerce can help. Step 5 is to use AI to adapt, but not to blindly create. And remember, be specific with AI. So, for example, don't just say, write me a safeguarding policy. Instead, ask, using this template and the information I've given you, help me create a first draft policy for my organisation. Tell which policy and highlight any areas that I must check manually. Step 6, turn the policy into a usable procedure. So once you have the policy, ask, how does this work in real life? Who does what? What forms are used? Where is information stored? Who signs it off? How often is it reviewed? Step 7 is about getting approval. So for a community interest company, you should have a board of at least 3 unrelated members. For a community interest company, you should have a board of at least 3 unrelated directors, and they need to approve your policies. For a charity, trustees need to approve your policies. Make sure there's an approval date, a review date, and a responsible person for doing those tasks clearly shown. Step 8 is about training people. A policy that nobody reads is no use whatsoever. You need to make sure staff, volunteers, directors understand what applies to them, what their responsibilities are. And that might be a short induction, a team briefing, a one-page summary, or an annual refresher. Step 9 is that you review regularly. Do not leave policies untouched for years because things change. Review them annually or sooner if needed. Remember, the law changes, guidance changes, your services may change. You may expand into new areas. You may have an incident or a near miss. And you may have a funder or commissioner that asks for updates. This is particularly relevant. In my other videos, I talk about contracts and tender writing, tender applications, tender readiness, and this is all relevant. Policies and procedures are relevant for those processes. So I thought I'd give you some AI prompts. So prompt 1 is a policy gap analysis. Act as a UK governance and policy advisor for small CIC social enterprise. Review this policy and identify any gaps, unclear sections, or areas that need to be tailored. Please separate your response into urgent changes, useful improvements, missing organisation-specific information, and questions I need to answer before approval. Prompt 2 is template adaptation. Prompt 2 is template adaptation. So using the uploaded template, create a first draft policy for a small CIC that delivers and insert your activity for and insert your audience in and insert your area. Keep the language clear and professional. Do not invent local authority contacts or legal requirements. Mark any sections where I need to add local information. Prompt 3, procedure creation. So turn this policy into a practical step-by-step procedure for staff and volunteers. Make it clear that they should do, what they should do, who they should contact, what they should record, and what they must not do. Volunteer-friendly version. So create a one-page English summary of this policy for volunteers. Use simple language, clear headings, and bullet points. Include a short what to do if you're worried section. Prompt 5, board approval checklist. So create a board approval checklist for this policy. Include what directors, trustees should check before approving it and what information should be recorded in the minutes and what review cycle should be agreed. Prompt 6 is a policy register. Create a policy register for a small CIC or social enterprise. Include columns for policy name, owner, approval date, review date, risk level, training required, and next action. So here's a few things on what not to do. Firstly, do not download a policy and assume you are compliant. So here's a few things on what not to do. Firstly, do not download a policy and assume you are then compliant. Do not use AI to create a policy without checking it against official guidance. Do not leave fake names, wrong local authority contacts, or irrelevant procedures in the document. Do not have a safeguarding policy that says you have a designated safeguarding lead if nobody has actually been appointed or trained appropriately. Do not promise procedures that you can't deliver. Do not make policies so complicated that no one understands them. And do not store them in a folder called New Policies, Final, version 3, really final. I've seen it a lot of times. We have all been there. But it's not a system until you create a proper folder, a policy register, and a review schedule. Your future self will thank you. Policies and procedures may not be the most exciting part of running a small organisation. Nobody dreams of a beautifully formatted complaints procedure, but good policies are part of growing as an organisation. They show funders and partners and commissioners, staff and volunteers that you are serious. They also protect the people you serve, and they help you to make better decisions when you need to make them. They also help to stop everything living in your head, taking up space. And it's especially important if your head is already full of funding deadlines, project ideas, invoices, social media, and wondering why your printer has developed a personality disorder like mine. So let's start small. Prioritize the highest risk areas. Use trusted templates. Use AI intelligently. Check everything. Approve it properly. And then make sure people know exactly what to do. Because the goal is not to have policies. The goal is to run a safe, credible, and organised organisation. And that is what funders, partners, commissioners want to see. If you are setting up a community interest company, social enterprise, or some kind of not-for-profit organisation, and you're feeling overwhelmed by governance, funding policies, procedures, and all the things you need to do when you're starting out, then have a look at my Mastering Not-for-Profit Launch and Grow course. It's only 4.5 hours, little snippets of videos with workbooks and toolkits to help you get moving, help you get started with your organisation. It's designed to help you build properly with more confidence, more clarity, and fewer moments of thinking, am I supposed to already know this? And if you would find it useful, let me know in the comments what you are struggling with right now, and I will see if I can make a video to help. If you found this useful, then please subscribe to my channel, and the algorithm will know what it is you need to be successful. Thank you for listening.